Coming up on Hands on iOS, it's time to take control. Yes, that's right, I'm talking about Control Center for iOS. That thing you swipe down from the top right to... you get it.
Hands on iOS is brought to you from Twit's LastPass Studios. You're focused on security, but are your employees? LastPass can ensure that they are by making access and authentication seamless, whether they're working in the office or remote. Visit lastpass.com/twit to learn more.
This is Twit.
This episode of Hands on iOS is brought to you by Simply Safe. Everything you need in a home security system. For free shipping and a 60-day risk-free trial, visit simplysafe.com/twit.
Control Center for iOS is one of these tools that I see people use occasionally, but maybe don't understand the full power of it. On my device, a device without a home button, I access it by swiping from the top right corner of the screen. Some of you may access it by swiping up from the bottom. But in it, you have all these little panels, and yours may look slightly different from mine because you may not have some of these icons down here. I'm going to show you that too, how to get more icons in your Control Center. But this is the basic structure of the Control Center. So what can you do with it? Well, let's go ahead and take a tour. We'll start in the top left corner. These are your communications controls. So in the top left, you can see an airplane there. That is, as you might imagine, how you turn on and off airplane mode. Next is the ability to broadcast over cellular, then the ability to broadcast over Wi-Fi, and then the ability to broadcast over Bluetooth. So toggling those off will turn off cellular, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth respectively. You can actually control more by holding down on any of these icons to launch the connectivity mode. So here again in the top left, it shows you now what each of these mean. Airplane mode, which is currently off, cellular data, which I currently have turned on, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, AirDrop, and personal hotspot. So let's talk about AirDrop really quickly. AirDrop is a way for you to share files easily with other folks using iOS, macOS devices. So I can take a file on my phone and use a local Wi-Fi connection to send that file to another device quickly and easily. If I tap on this, then I can choose which mode I want to use. So for example, me, I have it set to contacts only. I can easily set it to everyone or completely turn off receiving. So if you've ever been on the subway or you've been on at an airport or something like that and you've gotten random files from somebody, you don't have to completely turn off AirDrop. Just switch that to contacts only and then you won't get those random AirDrops. Unless that's something you're into, in which case keep it on. Personal hotspot, that's not going to be available for everyone. Personal hotspot is a tool that your cellular provider is either going to make available or is not going to make available on your device. And it lets you use your cellular data connection and your device as a Wi-Fi access point for another device. So if I had a laptop and I wanted to be able to connect to the internet, I don't have Wi-Fi nearby, I can turn on my phone's personal hotspot connection and then connect my laptop to my phone, which is using the cellular connection to then provide internet to my device. So again, holding down on any of these icons lets you see the connectivity options that are available there. To the right of the connectivity options are your media options. If I tap and hold down on this, you can see the availability, whether you're controlling your iPhone, the Apple TV that we have here called Living Room, the Office device that is currently, well, it's not currently, but could be playing Madonna from Ghost Town. But depending on which device that you choose, so you know, I could tap on Living Room and then choose play or pause, I can control that. So if music were currently playing on my iPhone right now, then tapping onto this and being able to adjust where I am on the track, adjust the volume of the track, play, pause controls, back and next. In this top right corner here, this is how you control where the media is playing. So I can choose to play it from my iPhone, I can switch it to the Office HomePod or the Living Room Apple TV. And depending on which devices, you can select multiple to have it output to those different devices. So that little icon there lets you choose how the audio is output and to where. We'll tap out of that. And again, holding down anywhere on this square will launch this control and give you access to that. Up next, we have orientation lock. So tapping on this makes it so that your phone's orientation stays in its current mode. So let's talk about that. What does that mean? Well, you may be holding your phone up on your web browser, say Safari, and you're reading an article and you're so tired, you lay down and you lift up your phone, and then suddenly the orientation changes, the browser shifts to the side, and you have to scroll and look at it that way. Well, you can keep it from doing that. You can keep it locked in that portrait mode by tapping on portrait orientation lock there. Turning on and off will control that. Then to the right of that is do not disturb. So I can tap to turn that off, tap to turn that on, tap to turn that on, and that controls do not disturb. As you can see, holding down on it lets me choose how long I want this to be set for. So I can just have it go for an hour. I can have it keep going until this evening. I can choose to have it keep going until I leave my current location, and I can choose it. It can read my calendar and it knows I want this to keep going until a current event is completed. So you can schedule your do not disturb in that way, which is really nice because sometimes I forget to turn mine off. And so as long as I've got events in my calendar, I will use those as my way. You know, after a podcast is over, I want to go ahead and turn that off. Now, if you podcast with Leo Laporte, then you might want to not use that because the podcast is probably going to keep going past the actual calendar invite. Up next is the display controls. So I can bring up or down the brightness, but if I tap into that, then you can see that there are different controls for turning on dark mode, turning on night shift, which changes the phone to a more orange, it pulls out some of the blue, and then True Tone, which is a feature that I recommend you leave on at all times. True Tone is an Apple-specific feature that uses the ambient light sensors in your device to determine the color temperature surrounding the device, and it adjusts the white balance of your display based on the colors that surround it. So if I were to have a white sheet of paper and lay it down in the current environment, then there may be a little bit of an orange color to it. And if I were to go outside, there may be a little bit of a bluer color to it. So the phone will automatically adapt based on the lighting that surrounds it to provide the best color temperature that you can have in a given environment. So I typically leave that on. And the iOS system is smart enough to adapt based on what you're doing. If you're doing color correction in an app that does photos or something like that, then it will disable those tools during that period of time. So I will come out of this, and then next is volume controls. So of course, turning this up and down will adjust the volume of whatever you're listening to. So you can see that I can hold down on that to get just a bigger control. So if you kind of have trouble making your precise adjustment with that little area, then tapping into that will give you more controls. Up next is screen mirroring. So this is if you have, say, an Apple TV in your space and you want to be able to hop into that Apple TV and have your device mirror to the Apple TV. This would work with your iPad, this would work with your iPhone, your iPod Touch. Any of these devices can do the screen mirroring functionality, and essentially it just brings up your device on that screen. And so we'll tap out of that. You can, of course, control screen mirroring to turn it off and on using that tool. Next is flashlight. This one's pretty simple. Just tapping on it will turn on the flashlight, but if I hold down on the flashlight, I can choose the level of brightness that I want the flashlight to be set at, and then, of course, turn it off that way as well. So we'll turn it to full brightness, and then tapping on and off will turn on and off the light. Holding down again lets you adjust how bright you want it to be. Then you have the timer. If I tap on this, it will launch the timer app, but if I tap and hold, then I can choose a timer that I would want. It goes down into increments 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it starts to go to 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, up from there. So just making adjustments there, and then hitting start lets you not have to go into the timer app to make that control. Then there's the calculator. Again, tapping on that is going to take you into the calendar app, or excuse me, the calculator app, but tapping and holding down lets you copy the last result that you had in the calculator. So if you're running calculations, you got the answer, and you quickly wanted to get the result, you could swipe down from the right of your screen while you're in whatever app you're using, copy that last result, paste it into the Google Sheets document or whatever it happens to be.
This episode of Hands on iOS is brought to you by SimpliSafe. With all the uncertainty in the world, feeling safe at home has never been more important. SimpliSafe Home Security gives you comprehensive protection for your home. No technician or salesperson ever comes over, no outrageous monthly fees or 2-year contracts. It's just 50 cents a day. You can order online and set it up yourself in under an hour, and your home is protected 24/7 with emergency dispatch for break-ins, fire, and more. Head to simplysafe.com/twit and my listeners will get free shipping and a 60-day risk-free trial. That's simplysafe.com/twit to make sure they know we sent you. Both SimpliSafe and all of us here at Twit wish you safety and good health.
Up next is camera. Tapping and holding on that lets you go to shortcuts, so I could quickly take a selfie, could record video, portrait or portrait selfie, without having to launch the camera and then make those shifts within the camera to change the mode. So it's just a quick, easy shortcut to be able to get right into what you're trying to do. Then there's the Home app. Again, tapping on it launches the Home app, but if I hold down on it, then I can control my favorite accessories all right here from Control Center. So no matter where I am on my iOS device, a quick swipe from the right corner of the screen and then holding down on the Home app icon lets me control those accessories. Then there is the remote. This is the Apple TV remote. So if you are connected to an Apple TV, holding down on that lets you actually control, so in this case the living room Apple TV. So you can swipe to navigate. You can do everything that you can do with the Siri remote for Apple TV right there from Control Center. And then simply swiping up from the bottom will let you get out of that mode. So most of these, the way that you exit from the screen is by simply tapping somewhere outside of the focus, like so. But here for the Siri remote, because it has to take over the entire screen, you swipe up from the bottom, and that will let you change modes away from the Apple TV remote. So just like that. Up next is Do Not Disturb while driving. I'm going to be talking about Do Not Disturb and including Do Not Disturb while driving in a future video, so be sure to check that out. But essentially what it lets you do is while you have this turned on, it will send messages, depending on how you have the settings set up, to favorite contacts, to recent contacts, to let them know, hey, I'm driving right now, I'm not gonna see these messages until I get where I'm going. If it is urgent, then reply with urgent, and then it will push through the message. But that is a way to manually activate Do Not Disturb while driving. The next thing is a shortcut to access accessibility controls. So tapping down on that, in the previous video, it may have even been the first one, reduce white point, which lets you basically bring down the brightness of the screen so that it's not blasting your retinas at night. So if you haven't checked out my first Hands on iOS video, you can learn more about reduce white point, and there are some other controls in here as well. This is hearing health, so tapping on that lets me activate Live Listen on AirPods. So Live Listen is a feature that works a little bit like hearing aids do. When you turn that on, it will use the microphone in your AirPods to essentially bring up the volume, to amplify the volume of your surrounding area so that you can hear things a little bit better. So not a feature that I need to use very often, but something that I do have in my Control Center because I kind of just like to, they're like little badges, I like to collect them all. This is low power mode. Folks love low power mode. Low power mode turns off certain functions of your iOS device so that the screen and certain apps and things like that don't drain your battery. You can set it up to where it turns on and it turns off after your phone is recharged to a certain point, but it essentially stops background app refreshing. Some of these different features that you don't necessarily need while your phone is running low on battery and that you can have again when your phone is recharged. So it extends the life of your battery until you get to a place where you can recharge it. So tapping on and off on that is what turns on low power mode. This is an option to create a new note. So you can easily, just by tapping it, of course, it's going to launch the Notes app. It's going to create a new note, but holding down on it lets you create a new note, create a new checklist, add a photo to your notes, or scan a document very quickly, which is quite nice. Again, tapping out of it will get you out of there. And then quickly and easily scan a QR code. So if you see a QR code somewhere, you want to scan it, then you swipe down from the top right, you tap on that scan QR code, you can put your phone over that QR code and it will give you the information that you want from that. Now in the bottom left corner here, this is something that you can see is currently running. This is the ability to record what's on your device, to record your screen. It is also the way that you set up broadcasting to different services. So Twitch, Ustream, those different things. There are different apps that you can download to broadcast what's on your device to an online streaming service. Now, I'm currently recording my screen for this show, so I'm not able to hit that button or else it will turn off the screen recording, but there is functionality there that lets you change whether the mic is on or the mic is turned off and lets you record your screen. I use the screen recording function all the time because I have family members who need help figuring out how to do something on their phones. They text me, I say, hold on, I'll get you a video. I tap and turn that on. I record my screen doing the thing that they need while I talk out the process, and then it helps them get that figured out. So if you're pretty savvy, that's a great way to help out your family and friends with a problem that they might have on their device. Next is the timer, or rather the timer and stopwatch functionality. So tapping onto that will launch the clock app, which will then let you do a stopwatch. And then one of my favorites, a quick and easy way to access voice memos. So I tend to record voice memos rather frequently. When there's something, if I'm asked something that has a very complex answer and I really don't feel like typing the whole thing out, then I will use voice memos to quickly and easily record my response and send that in a message. And then last but not least is just an easy way to access Wallet. So tapping on that will launch the Wallet app. Of course, while you are using your iOS device, double tapping on the side button will also launch Wallet, specifically Apple Pay, and will have all of the cards, the pay cards that you have there. But if you're wanting to get access to your passes and non-pay cards, then tapping on that wallet icon will give you access to that. So I'm going to swipe up to go back to my home screen so that I can talk about how to add and subtract those different tiles from your control center. Because again, you may not have all of those available. So if I tap on settings and I come down to control center, you can choose whether control center is available from within apps. I recommend always having that turned on. Again, like the copy last results from the calculator option, or maybe you want to start screen recording from within an app. That is why you want to have access within apps on. If you turn that off, then you won't be able to get to it except from the home screen. And then you tap, and I have to say, Apple, if you're listening, it is very odd to me that customized controls are a whole nother level deep into this. There's all this blank space at the bottom. You'd think you could just customize the controls right here. Alas, it is not that way. But tapping on customized controls lets you choose what you want to have in your control center. So you can see, I don't currently have alarm, dark mode, guided access, magnifier, and text size in my control center. These are ones that I either access in different ways. So dark mode, for example, I showed that you can access that by holding down on the display brightness slider and then choosing dark mode. So no need to have that redundant control. Guided access is a tool that I don't need to make available to me. Same with magnifier and text size. Right now, I can see those things just fine, but you may want to have those for your sake. And then alarm, I always use the clock app to set my alarms as opposed to going from the control center. So tapping plus lets you add a tile to your control center. Tapping minus lets you remove the option from your control center. And then you see these three little lines to the right of each of these icons. That is a grab slider. So if I grab that, I can drag notes and move it up or down based on how often I use any given tile. So you may have ones that you want to have closer to the top or the bottom based on what you use more or less. You may want to add or remove them from your control center, and it's as easy as tapping that plus icon or that minus icon to get to them. So that, folks, is Control Center. Whether you're swiping down from the top right or swiping up from the bottom, there are so many things you can do without having to dive into settings or dive into specific apps. It's all right there. It's available to you at a swipe of a finger. Control Center, the way to take control of your iOS devices quickly and easily. I want to thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Hands on iOS. There have been lots of topic suggestions and things like that, and I really appreciate it. If your question has yet to be answered, if your topic has yet to be covered, if your favorite app is something that I should be checking out, then make sure you let me know. handsonios@twit.tv is the email where you can send that. Of course, if you'd like to subscribe to the show, I'd love it if you did. It's twit.tv/HOI. By subscribing to the show and downloading it, you're helping us out a whole heck of a lot. That's what keeps these shows going. So please take a second, head to twit.tv/HOI and find your app of choice, your service of choice, and tap that subscribe button to get the episodes delivered fresh to your door as soon as they're ready. And of course, if you're a YouTube fan, then you can head to youtube.com/handsonios. Or if you're already watching me there, go ahead and click that subscribe button and, maybe hit that like button as well if you have a second. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time on Hands on iOS.